What if your buyer intent data didn't just tell you who is researching, but instead it helps you understand what buyers care about and how to act on it faster? I'm Jeremy Gutzbler, the Senior Technical Product Manager for Buyer Intent here at G2. Now, intent data has become a commodity. Every platform claims to have more signals, more coverage, and more activity. But more data doesn't automatically create better outcomes. In fact, many teams are overwhelmed by the disconnected signals that lack context, trust, or even a clear path to action. What makes G2 different is that our buyer intent is built on first-party buyer behavior, which includes real research, comparisons, reviews, and engagement happening on platforms that buyers already trust to make software decisions. That same first-party behavior is what makes G2 intent data authoritative to AI agents. Now, when an agent is evaluating which products to surface or maybe recommend, validated buyer signals are exactly the kind of trust signal that it's looking for. And now, with expanded buyer intent coverage across Capterra, GetApp, and software advice, teams can get a broader view into trusted buyer research behavior across all G2 digital markets. But visibility alone isn't enough. Here's how we're changing that. First, we're expanding how teams understand buyer journeys across trusted research experiences. Today, buyers don't research in a straight line. They move between categories, comparison sites, reviews, and even competitor evaluations before ever talking to sales. That's why buyer intent now includes activity across Capterra, GetApp, and software advice, because it's giving teams broader visibility into how buyers research software across the G2 digital markets. For example, a demand generation team could identify accounts, research competitors across multiple platforms before those buyers ever fill out a form or even engage directly. Instead of relying on isolated signals, teams now get a more complete view into real buyer behavior. But understanding that an account is active really isn't enough. Teams also need to understand why the signal matters. All right, so now let's look at our buyer intent UI. As you can see on your signals page, let's say you wanted to go to the filters and select signal types. In this example, I'm very interested in what our competitors are doing. So what I'm going to do is I am going to remove all the signals here and unselect that. And then I'm going to start to go towards the bottom of the filters here because those were the competitive ones at. I can do things like select what compared me to other products, maybe something like accounts that are researching competitor alternatives, and also ones who research me as an alternative with my competitors. So if I apply that filter, what you'll see on the page is you're seeing all of G2 software advice and GetApp signals there. Went from about 16,000, and as you'll see, we're about to decrease to about a little more than 1,100. Now, in this case, that's perfectly fine. We're focusing only on those competitive signals. Now, if I scroll down to the table, these are all these accounts that fit that criteria. If you look to the right, you'll see these new icons and kind of our updated iconography. This can show you who viewed your profile, who maybe did a competitive signal, even viewed a category, things of that nature. So as you click into the details for this account here for Samsara, you'll see that it's a list of visitors who actually fulfilled that requirement to be a competitive signal. Now, if you go to the top, you'll see ClickUp, for example. And if I click there, I'll see that there is a visitor from Canada who viewed a profile page. So this can help give you better visibility if you're in MyG2, looking at your signals to better understand how you're faring with your competitors. All right, so now let's look at our Audience Builder feature, which will be part of our Intent Studio offering. If you click inside of here, you'll have the options to define your ICP, things like industries, headquarters, countries, employee counts, even revenue. So in this example, I want to focus on those accounts that are in North America region. They're going to have an employee count, let's say a minimum of 250. And then in the max, I'm going to put about 2,000. I have a very specific ICP I want to target. Now, once I click that, you're going to see at the top that the estimated monthly audience number actually changed. This is going to give you a forecast based on your previous data and what we forecast moving forward based on that audience. When you get to the next screen here, you'll see that based on the signals you just defined, you can have them sent automatically to you for the integrations, which is reducing the noise and increasing the value of the signal. I'll choose LinkedIn ads in this example. And then once you get to the end, you will have the option here to review and make sure everything looks good. As you can see, there's a forecast, there's ICP inclusions, and then there's integrations that it applies to. Now, this to me looks pretty good. I think I'm going to go ahead and save my audience. And now when we return back to the home screen, what you're going to see now at the top is a new view. You have show your audience and you have show all signals. So the important thing to note here is that you're not losing any signals. It's more of a view. If you want to focus on just those ones you defined, you would show your audience. If you want to see all signals that tie to your products, go back to show all signals and you're right where you started. This feature should help you focus on the right signals and make sure that the right integrations are getting the right signals. The companies that win in today's market won't be the ones with the most intent data. They'll be the ones who can operationalize trusted buyer behavior faster than anyone else. Next, let's look at the trusted customer voice powering all of these workflows and why reviews are becoming one of the most important inputs in the AI-driven discovery.